Piles of computers, stacks of screens, hard drives ready to head to a new home. This is PCs for People, a nonprofit News 5 has told you about many times before.
Can't lose a laptop like this. It's a gift, it's a blessing.
The organization provides low-cost or free computers, internet, and tech support to low-income Clevelanders.
Since COVID has happened, our demand for computers has gone up tenfold. So we've gone from doing a couple hundred computers a month to well over 1,000 every month.
And while they're grateful to help the community so much, Executive Director Brian Mock says now they need a little help too.
But unfortunately, the donations of computers coming in has only increased fivefold. So we're also reaching out to corporations that are getting ready to recycle their computers. We provide secure data wiping and free pickup for corporations. We need more computers so that we can deploy them out to individuals in need.
People who need computers to file for unemployment, apply to jobs, or attend virtual job fairs. Data shows that in Cleveland, 1 in 5 households does not have a computer or internet access.
So not having a computer, not having an internet at home, and not being able to go to places like the library or even friends' houses, right, has really isolated folks that don't have those connections.
It's why Cuyahoga County and Ohio Means Jobs teamed up with PCs for People to provide free kits that include a computer and an internet hotspot.
Almost new if you ask me.
It comes with preloaded software like Windows 10 and 3 months of free internet. After that, unlimited data can cost as low as $16 a month. And the nonprofit isn't just serving Cleveland. The free computers are sent statewide, shipped to Columbus, Toledo, Youngstown, Elyria, and Lorain.
So let's talk about a little bit on modern hardware. So what is modern hardware doing right now to assist us with this problem if we want to, for example, process LiDAR data in real time? Well, one of the big benefits of modern hardware is that it's no longer a 200-pound supercomputer. So it's available in ruggedized form factors like VPX and XMC, meeting open standards for sensors, that type of thing. And there are options for DO-254 certified hardware available today as well. The other key thing is this modern graphics hardware has more computation power than ever before. So if we compare this, for example, AMD E9171 to the old SGI Onyx, it's much more capable than that SGI Onyx was in a more desirable package. So when we're talking about these modern GPUs, they can process trillions of math operations per second. They're running at 30 watts or lower of power, and they can fit on these very small, low weight boards that are XMC and VPX form factor. So when we're talking about size, weight, and power, they're checking the boxes for everything we need to fit on modern avionics systems. The other thing, and this is a point I'm going to jump back on a lot of times during this presentation, is that they support simultaneous graphics and compute. And right now, the key benefit to this is, especially when we're talking about large volumes of data, is that on legacy systems, you might have processed the data using a specialized DSP, ASIC, or FPGA, and then when you wanted to visualize the data, you need to move it from this specialized processor like a DSP to the GPU for visualization. So now you have to, if we're talking about a LiDAR point cloud, there could be gigabytes of data there. So now we have to do a gigabyte or more of copying to move the data from the DSP to an area that's accessible by the GPU, that the GPU is able to operate on efficiently. So when we have support for simultaneous graphics and compute, the GPU can do the computation directly in its own memory and then visualize based on that computation, eliminating this kind of double copy and allowing a lower latency since we're not adding time to actually copy the data. So modern hardware, I just want to compare a little bit GPUs to modern CPUs to give you a better idea of the computation power available. So for example, the Intel i9-9600K, which is a very high-end Intel CPU, fairly modern, it supports about 6 gigaflops. And if you're not familiar with a gigaflop, it's basically 1 billion floating point operations per second. And I'm just going to refer to that as basically 6 billion math operations per second per core on the CPU. And this is when optimized using the special SIMD instruction sets available on x86. And so This is kind of like the best case scenario for performance you could get out of this Intel processor per core. But one thing to keep in mind, and I'm not going to say that this number is measly, it's a very astonishing number. This is much higher than systems in the past have been capable of doing. You can achieve an enormous amount of computation with 6 billion math operations per second. But another thing we have to keep in mind is the CPU is responsible for running the operating system, other applications that might have synchronization requirements or other real-time requirements that prevent this full 6 billion operations per second from being used. And then when you go to compare this against, for example, the AMD E9171 GPU, this GPU is capable of performing 1,200 gigaflops, or I'll reword this as 1.2 trillion math operations per second. And so this is a substantial increase over what is available on the Intel CPU. And I'll caveat this a little bit, okay? The GPU is able to do this when you're working on highly parallel problems. So these are problems where you can operate on individual points of data in parallel independently. And when we're talking about a problem like processing a point cloud, this is exactly what we're trying to do. There's parallel points of data that we need to process individually and independently. And so we can actually achieve this 1.2 trillion math operations per second. The other thing is when we're using a GPU for visualization, there's lots of leftover computation time that we can use to run these other computation tasks. And the GPU isn't being shared to run the operating system and other applications on the system that might have real-time requirements. So it's focused to this task of visualization and data processing. So this full 1.2 trillion operations are available to us. Now let's touch a little bit on modern standards. So what are modern?
Presentation on Intel Trust Domain extensions. On the hardware side, there's a new architectural CPU mode called Secure Arbitration Mode, or SIEM. SIEM is effectively a submode of VMX root mode. It is slightly more privileged in that it has access to some new assets in the system, but beyond those, it is the same privilege level as VMX root mode. SIEM mode can only be entered through VMX root mode via new instruction SIEM call, and then conversely can be only exited from SIEM root through new instruction SIEM ret. Being a submode of VMX, SIEM mode has full access to the VMX instructions so that it can create VMCSs, manage VMCSs, and ultimately run VMs through those VMCSs through VM launch and VM resume, transitioning between SIEM root and SIEM non-root. On the memory side, TDX builds on MKTME to add integrity, where integrity in this context means that if software accesses integrity protected memory with the incorrect encryption key, the hardware will poison memory and ultimately result in a recoverable machine check when that memory is next accessed. TDX also partitions the MKTME key ID space into shared and private keys, where private keys can only be used and programmed in SIEM mode. So for example, the untrusted VMM cannot take the private key for a trust domain and shove it into its own page tables and read out the guest memory. That operation will fail. TDX also adds a shared bit in the guest physical address space. This allows the trust domain, to select between shared and private memory, and ultimately allows the guest to decide which memory is shared with the outside world and which memory remains private within the trust domain. Also related to shared memory, a second EPT pointer is added to the VMCS. This allows the EPT tables to be split into shared EPT tables that are managed directly by the VMM and private or secure EPT tables that are managed through the TDX module. Again, the CPU switches on the shared bit in the GPA to select between shared and private. So if this bit is set, the CPU will start its EPT walk from the shared EPT pointer, and if the shared bit is clear, it will start its EPT walk from the secure EPT pointer in the VMCS.
I'm Micah Smith, and I'm super excited to tell you about what we're going to be doing for Imagine Day 3, specifically looking at the tech tracks. So I want to break down exactly what tech tracks I think you should be looking for and who they might be targeted for. Okay, so let's take a quick look. First off, I'm new to Automation Anywhere and I'm not sure where to start. We've got 2 sessions that'll be perfect for you. First is getting ready to get hands-on. And in this session, we walk through assuming no background of Automation Anywhere, assuming no background of RPA. We look to get you registered in Community Edition, look to get your bot agent set up and that installation taken care of. And then we create just a really quick sample bot just to make sure your machine is set up so that you're ready to go if you want to participate with any of the other tutorials that are happening on the Tech Track Day, Day 3. The second session is building your first bots, and I would say definitely check this out if you don't have a lot of experience in RPA or specifically you don't have experience in Automation Anywhere. Again, this assumes no prior RPA or programming background. You're going to go through with two of our top trainers how to build your first bots, a quick explanation of the layout and how things work within the Automation 360 interface. If you've seen all the demos before and you're ready for something really advanced, something more, we've got two great sessions for you. First is a hyper-automation self-improving bots demo. And in this session, we're going to explore what it would look like if we were able to have bots that could mimic not only just human actions, but also human decision making. And we're going to see how we can create bots that are self-improving and bots that can learn. Really fun session. I've been working on that one since like January, so I promise you that one is good. And we'll have all the code available for you afterwards. So if you want to replicate the demo that I'm going to be doing in that session, definitely come for that. The second is leveraging Ari with intelligent automation. And this one is actually a tutorial. And I differentiate that to say that a tutorial is meant for you to follow along with me and build along. And so for this particular tutorial, we're going to be importing a couple bots, and this will work with CE or regular Automation 360. And we're going to import some bots and we're going to build out an Ari process. So that means we're going to build out the forms, we're going to build the process, we're going to make sure the whole thing works end to end, we're going to do some testing, and we'll validate that our process works correctly. So great session if you want to learn a little bit more about Ari or you're just getting started with Ari and you want to build out some different processes. What if you're looking to take your organization's RPA practice to the next level with some of the other applications offered by Automation Anywhere? I would suggest 3 sessions. First, identifying RPA opportunities with Discovery Bot. In this session, we're going to go through how to record, analyze, and document your business processes that can help you to jumpstart as you start to scale your RPA practice. Definitely a great session. The next session I would recommend is Insights into your RPA practice. In this session, we're going to be leveling up your RPA insights with business and operational dashboards powered by Bot Insight. And so you'll get to see the different types of dashboards you can create in Bot Insight. We'll go through and customize them. We'll also take a look at Insight Anywhere and how you can connect to different third-party data management platforms like Tableau. The last session I would recommend is accelerating AP automation with IQBot. Auto extraction is a new capability from Automation Anywhere, which leverages an AI model for out-of-box invoice processing. In this session, we're going to explore exactly how to use that, how to set that up, and we'll look at an example of its use and talk about some of the pros and cons. Finally, for those of you who specifically say, I miss the normal interaction at in-person events, and that would be me. First off, how do I break into the RPA industry? This is going to be a roundtable discussion with myself and John Stuvey and Aaron Gleason, who are both trainers here at Automation Anywhere. We're going to talk about some of the most common questions that we get on LinkedIn and social media and talk about how people can break into the RPA industry if you're not an RPA expert. Or if you're already in RPA, how do you differentiate yourself from other developers that might be competing for the same jobs? So we're going to talk about some of those keys and talk about some of the questions that we frequently get. Finally, rounding out the day, we're going to have a hallway conversation with the experts. And again, this is designed so that, hey, we all miss those conversations. Hey, I had a question about that presentation, wondered if I could get an answer from you. So this is your chance to interact with some of the presenters for the different sessions for that day. And so myself, as well as some of the other presenters, will be live on a video feed and we'll be taking questions from you and questions that you've asked either in real time or also on Twitter during the week of Imagine. So be sure to check that out. We're going to be answering as many questions as we can in the time allotted. Finally, the most important thing, make sure you register for Imagine. It's at imagine.automationanywhere.com. Go through the registration. There's some excellent sessions on both day 1 and 2, but specifically make sure that you register for the 3rd day where we're going to be doing the tech tracks and you'll get access to all those materials. I can't wait to see you there. Imagine 2021 is going to be incredible. Go be great.
BlackBerry Guard is a 24/7 managed detection and response offering. It combines the pre-execution strengths of BlackBerry Protect with the post-execution detection and response of BlackBerry Optics. BlackBerry Guard helps you discover, disrupt, and respond to threats. Let us put our technology, expertise, and highly trained staff to work for your organization. BlackBerry Guard, managed detection and response.